Hello, Dr. Emerson. My name is Angie, and this is my week 7 submission. We are going over Reverend Albert Mohler Jr.'s Little Children, Keep Yourselves from Idols. So let's go to the first question. How did the preacher integrate the book or passage from which he was preaching the biblical storyline? Well, the sermon revolved around 1 John 5:21's concept of little children, keep yourselves from idols. Now, 1 John 5:21 is the very last verse of 1 John. And the purpose of First John is basically to set boundaries on the content of faith and to give believers assurance of their salvation. So it's interesting that he would end it on a note of idolatry. But we'll get to that. So 1 John 3:6 tells us, "No one who lives in him keeps on sinning. No one who continues to sin has either seen or known him." Now that right there is basically John just giving out more reassurance to believers that even though you may continue to sin, you don't, because Christ came and he took that burden from us. He was sent down from God. No one who continues to sin has either seen or known him. This kind of addresses the hypocrisy of the church. He later goes on to say, they went out from us because they are not us. And I think that's interesting because there's so many times where you have false preachers. There's people who say that they're Christians, but they're not. They are liars, in a sense. So let's go on. John believes that we know a lot, that we are well educated on the subject of the gospel. He's not writing these things to someone who has no idea who God is. He says, "I write these things to you who believe in the name of the Son of God." He wants Christians to hear what he has to say. He wants us to know. So let's go into the second question. How did the preacher articulate the message of the book or passage, and did he do so appropriately? Well, let's go back to the verse. Little children, keep yourselves from idols. Now, the preacher tells us when he says little children, he is not scolding these kids. He's not looking down on them for being younger, and he's not putting himself on a pedestal. It's actually more of a term of endearment. We are to look at children as being learners. So again, I write these things to you who believe in the name of the Son of God. John is addressing Christians, adult Christians, more than likely. Children are learners. Then he goes on to tell us, knowledge by itself does not save, but salvation does not come without knowledge. So just because you know who God is doesn't mean that you're going to go to heaven. But salvation does not come. Sorry, I got tongue-tied. You can't be saved without knowing the good news either, though. So, in a sense, he's talking to us who believe in the name of the Son of God. And he kind of tells us earlier on, or he doesn't kind of tell us, he tells us earlier that to be able to learn is a privilege. And children are learners. So the fact that we have this knowledge is something that we need to instill onto these learners. So, number 3, how did the message challenge your personal habits or beliefs? Sometimes it's easy to forget how many people have not come to Christ simply because they haven't heard of him. They don't know who he is. Some of them might be like, oh yeah, that Jesus guy, he died on the cross, right? But they don't actually know who he is. They don't have a relationship with him. And they aren't in a position where they're going to be able to form a relationship. So, going back to it's a privilege to study, it really is. I'm in a institution right now where I am constantly being shown God's grace. I'm constantly being reminded of it, and I'm constantly learning more about it. But not everyone is. So it's very important to spread the word of God. The world lies in the power of the evil one. I found this to be a very powerful statement that he made, because it really does. You know, you turn on the TV and you go to the news. There's nothing but shootings and kidnappings and terrible things that are happening. You go to the media and there's sex and drugs and alcohol, and it's so rare to find a positive message these days, it seems like, when you turn on the television and you go outside. It's crazy out there. There's so much evil. The world really is under the power of the evil one. So, how are these people who have no idea who Christ is supposed to be saved? What I took from the message is this: we need to tell everyone. You know, I know that there's missions out there, and that's fantastic, but it could even start in our own house. Like, there's so many people who I'm friends with who, I mean, I know they're Christians, but we've never actually sat down and had a conversation about our relationship with Christ. And I have so many friends who aren't Christians who I just haven't really talked to about it because I didn't want to make them feel uncomfortable. But the fact of the matter is, they need to feel a little bit uncomfortable, because if they don't go through that uncomfort and come to Christ, then they're inevitably going to go to hell. So, this message has really challenged me to not only cherish the knowledge that I have, but to want to share it with others. So, that is my little take on Reverend Albert Mohler Jr. Thank you.